Well, welcome back to another chat with Tim. We've been working on a little series around boundaries and just very practical guidelines to help us in kind of the nuanced part of enforcing boundaries with different people and different types of relationships and circumstances. And today I want to talk about what happens when somebody asks me to do something. So they've basically proposed a boundary to me and asked for my consent. So for example, let's say somebody asks you to volunteer at a certain organization or to attend a social function or to give them a ride or to pick up their child from school or to lend them a bit of money. All kinds of different things where people will approach us and ask us for something. So basically they're proposing a boundary and they're asking if we will agree to this boundary. This is very important for people to think through because often when you get asked to do something, all kinds of old programming kick in that say you should say yes. So just for example, many of you grew up in homes that the emphasis of your training from your parents was you had to be polite. Being rude was very, very bad. And so this is really part of many shame cultures, that being polite is a value that is very, very important. So if somebody just showed up at your house, didn't ask to come over, didn't phone ahead of time, they just showed up, knocked on the door and invited themselves in, you would not be able to say no. That would be rude. Even though it might mess up your evening, even though you maybe had other plans, the priority of being polite would come ahead of your own needs, your own plans. Or some of you, if somebody phones, you would be rude in your upbringing if you didn't answer the phone. You have to answer the phone. That's being polite. To not answer the phone, you would be shamed for that. That was being rude, and people would think less of you. You would not be considered a nice person. So you have to answer the phone. Or if somebody sends you a text, or an email, you have to respond. That's being polite. That's being rude. So what I want you to understand with that is you're predisposed to answer people's requests a certain way because of this supposed value system of politeness or kindness. But do you realize that shame-based value system about being polite or not rude actually could put you in danger, actually could make you unhealthy? And so you really need to be able to deconstruct some of the programming or training or indoctrination that you received as a child that predisposes you to respond to other people's requests a certain way. So I want to give you a bunch of practical things that I ask myself when people ask me stuff that help me know how to answer requests from people where they're trying to basically set a boundary with me. So the very first thing that I want to clarify in my mind is, okay, so they're asking me for a ride. They're asking me to go to a social setting. They're asking me to volunteer. Who is this for? Is it benefiting me or is it benefiting them? So that's a very good place to start. Secondly, am I doing what I would want to do, or am I doing what they want me to do or what they think I should do? So is this really something that deep down I want to do, or am I feeling pressured? The next one is, what would happen if I said no? Would they respect that? Or would they start putting pressure on me? Would they get angry at me? Would they come up with arguments to try to make it sound like I have to, so that they're saying they're giving me a choice, but they're really trying to make it so I really don't have a choice. They're pressuring me to a certain thing. And then I need to ask myself, am I doing this because I want to, or is my inclination to do it because of prior programming, or because I want them to like me, I want them to approve of me? All of those become very important questions to ask up front just to clarify, why am I doing this? What's going on underneath that would be influencing me to say yes when really my preference or the better decision would be to say no? So take that further. Very practical things that I need to do. So the next one is I need to check my internal state. So when I get asked to do something, what state am I in? So for an example, often if I'm really pumped up emotionally, I'm feeling really good about things. Let's say I just did a presentation. It went really well. I'm getting lots of validation. I got dopamine flooding in my brain. And then somebody comes up and says, would you mind helping or volunteering? What I know is my internal emotional state right now is in a heightened pleasure place. And that often makes me say yes to stuff that the next day after I've calmed down, I'll go, oh, that was a bad decision. So I need to be aware of what my internal state is and how it predisposes me to maybe give the wrong response to other people's requests. Then I go, am I feeling in a calm place where I'm feeling quite grounded right now, where I'm in my cortex? Or am I feeling stressed, depressed, pressured, confused? All of those things become very important in just getting a sense of my internal world. And then I often go, they're wanting an answer now, but would I benefit from maybe taking a little bit of time to think about this and not feeling pressured to give them an answer? Because if I feel pressured, then I'm probably going to lean in the direction of giving them the answer that I think they want. Whereas if I give myself some time to think about it and get to my cortex, then I can come up with a well thought out answer that's what's best for me. Next one is often I want to give an answer right now, because to ask for time to not give an answer right now is basically because I know that to ask for time to not give an answer right now is going to make me feel guilty. I'm going to sit in this discomfort of what are they thinking about me? There's going to be potential conflict. There's going to be potential rejection from them or anger from them. And so all of those are very uncomfortable and I don't want to go there. So let's just say yes. So deep in me is this fear of rejection, fear of anger, fear of conflict that I need to be aware of is influencing my decisions. So a good guideline for people would be, if you are feeling rushed, pressured, unclear, there's some fear of how they're going to respond, then possibly I need to back away, get myself to a calmer place in my nervous system before I give an answer. Then that leads to the next consideration that I have to ask myself, and that's, what's my motivation? So I'm being asked to do this, but why am I considering saying yes to this? Is it because I truly want to do this, or is it because I'm afraid of disappointing them? Would I still want to do this, even if I knew they'd be okay with whatever my answer was? So if I knew they'd be okay with me saying no, would I be very quick to say no? That becomes an important consideration. So bottom line is, again, am I trying to gain approval, avoid rejection, avoid conflict, maintain peace in the relationship? Is that my priority here, or is my needs and what is best for me the priority? And then, is this request, does it align with my values, what I'm really all about, what I'm wanting to commit my life to and where I want to make a difference? Or is it take me away from that? So what you're really wanting to ferret out is this about my needs and my values, or is this about fear, guilt, manipulation, fear of rejection, fear of not being liked? That I need to sort out in my mind. And then another one for me becomes to check my capacity. So realistically, do I have the time and the energy and the emotional space to do what they're asking me to do? So I need to look at what other commitments do I have right now? What other responsibilities do I have on my plate right now? Can I take on another thing? Or if I take on another thing, am I going to regret it? Because I just don't have the bandwidth for it, the emotional energy for it, the physical energy for it. So I'm looking at what is this going to cost me in time, energy, rest, and how might it take me away from my commitments and priorities that are more important in my life. So I might be able to say yes and do something, but I'll pay for it later because of the extra stress, the extra physical expenditure. It's going to take its toll. And so I really need to check my capacity. And then part of that to me is to say yes to this request. What do I have to say no to? So if I say yes to volunteering over here, does that mean now I might have to say no to going to my kids' school production or their sports events or spending an evening with them that really might be more important and valuable? So to say yes to something, am I going to have to say no to something? And that could even be necessary downtime to keep my life in balance between work and rest, necessary doing chores at home and fulfilling those personal responsibilities and my daily routine. If I'm starting to sacrifice the things that keep me healthy by saying yes to that, I could put myself in a dangerous, vulnerable position. So again, you're looking at an honest evaluation of what is this going to cost me? And do I have the capacity for that? Or is something else going to suffer? And then we've mentioned this. Does this align with my values? Does it fit in with what really matters to me? Does it align with my values around relationships, kindness, integrity, continued growth, or does it distract me from it? So another way to say that is, if I back away from that, would the future me look back on this one day and thank me for saying yes or thank me for saying no? So if something deep down feels like a betrayal of your values or of sacrificing your needs in order to do this, I need to stop and go, whoa, honoring my needs, honoring my values. If I give up that, I could be in big trouble. So the next thing I'm looking for is patterns in my own life around saying yes to people. So if I look back over my life and I begin to realize that, wow, I say yes a lot and then regret it. That's kind of my pattern. And I'm prone to do that again right now. So that just gives me extra pause to go, whoa, let's stop and think about this and make sure we're doing it for the right reasons. But then there's another pattern I'm looking for. And that is this person always asking me to do stuff, whereas when I ask them to do stuff, they don't do it? So it's a one-way type relationship. Or is this person always asking me to do stuff that's really their responsibility and they're just trying to get out of it and have an easier life? Or do I have a tendency to jump in and help people and rescue people when I'm actually enabling them to stay unhealthy? So I'm looking for unhealthy patterns in my life in the past that might be repeated, or in my relationship with this person that might be being repeated, that this is the time maybe where I could start to stop that, to change that, to make healthier choices, to not fall into the old unhealthy patterns. Because to fall into the old patterns, unhealthy patterns, once I'm aware of it, every time I fall into it, I have to abandon myself a little bit. And that's not good. The next one we've just kind of hinted at is I check for reciprocity or fairness. So is this person always asking me to do stuff, but they never respond positively when I ask them to do stuff? Is this a one-way street where there's not a healthy give and take? Do they really kind of see me as somebody inferior to them that should serve them, and they're more entitled attitude, and they're not about loving and serving, just about getting and using people? Am I always the one that's making compromises and blending or bending and sacrificing my needs, but they never sacrifice their needs? They never make a compromise. If that's the way things have been going, okay, that's not healthy either. So for me to continue to follow those dynamics is hurting me and is keeping the relationship unhealthy. The next thing that I think is so important when you get asked to do something is just to stop and check your gut, your intuition, to check your body, what it's telling you. So if I was to say yes, how does that feel? Do I feel relaxed, warm, open, or do all of a sudden I feel a tightness, a heaviness, a tenseness that is in my body and in my gut? Stop and just evaluate what's going on in my stomach, in my chest, in my shoulders, in my throat. That could be a good indicator of what your body is trying to tell you. Does this feel like an authentic yes if I say yes, or a pressured yes is what you're getting at? Be aware that your body often knows the right decision better than your brain. It's trying to send you signals. So learn to pay attention to them. And then check the timing. Is this the right time for me to do this? And is this the right time for me to give a response as to whether I'll do this? So there's two aspects to timing. So do I need to answer right away? And we've talked about that. Or at this point in my life, is this the right time to do this? Or might it be okay in a year or two or a month or two, but right now I've just got too many other things on. I'm going in a different direction. This is not the right timing for it. So in the first case, there's going to be times where you go, you know what, I need to think about this and reflect on it for a while. I need to weigh out the pros and cons. I need to talk to a friend to make sure I've thought this through carefully. So you realize I need some time because this is a big decision. This is an important decision. And then for the second one, the timing of what's going on in my life right now. So both of them, we need to be able to think it through. We need to probably be able to talk to somebody in order to discern what's the best thing to do. So those are things that I use in my life that help me when I get asked to do something. I wish I could say I followed it perfectly. I've got better and better over the years, but there's still those times where we're just very vulnerable and we don't always make great decisions. But let me just end by giving you just a shortcut. Sometimes it's important to say, if I say yes to this, will I feel resentment later or peace later? If I say no to this, will I feel actually a relief? Or will I feel regret down the road? So you want to think it through. What am I going to feel immediately in my body? And then in time, how am I going to see this? Bring both of those together to help you in sorting out how to respond. So again, I hope that helps you. This is a big issue for people who've been people pleasers and fawners all their life, who live with a lot of shame and want everybody to like them as this, how they see the solution to their shame. Learning to say no, learning to know when to say no becomes such an important part of their growth and recovery.